Hey guys, we watched Andor episode 6, so you know what time it is.
Hit that intro!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright everybody, if it's your first time joining us, welcome! We're two dads who love all things fandom, from Star Wars to Star Trek, Marvel to DC, and Middle-earth on down to Westeros. We love it all, and we want to bring all of our insights and love of all things nerdy to you, our viewers. So if that's your cup of fresh, squeezed green milk, then we're here for you, and you should definitely subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on all the amazing reviews and insights that we bring to all of our favorite fandoms. So thanks for tuning in. Guys, my name is Chris Matthews, and I'm joined, as always, by the scruffy-looking nerf herder himself, Mr. Matt Parham. How you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad. Glad to be in the studio and in the robe and ready to review.
Finally. A little bit more relaxed. Not going to hit any other cars or getting into any other crashes.
Semi-trucks zooming past and laying on the horns, so it should be good.
No road noise as well. This is great. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. We watched Andor episode 6, titled The Eye, directed by Susanna White, written by Dan Gilroy. And as always, guys, I looked up the Rotten Tomatoes score on this. And Matt, what do you think this got today?
I thought it's probably gonna. I think a lot of people are gonna rank this above 60%. Honestly,
good guess. It's at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's 13 critics that wrote that up that are rating this pretty highly. And I dived a little bit deeper today because I'm like, what do critics? What's the average like for the critic score on these? So I wanted to kind of bring that to you guys as well. So the average critic score on this one is 9.3 out of 10.
That's the 13.
Yeah, that's the 13 critics that rated this episode.
Okay.
So pretty highly
rated. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go into what these two dads think of it. So what did you think of this episode there, Matt?
Well, I'm definitely not going to argue with any of those critics because all of the slow burn and churn that we've had for the past couple of weeks have totally been worth the wait. This was an amazing episode. Oh, man. And the eye itself was pretty impressive. Again, I've got to hand it to the special effects. Hand it to the special effects department.
Just giving us something that looks unique and beautiful like that, and something we haven't seen in Star Wars. I absolutely love that too. Those effects were beautifully rendered.
Yeah, and I loved again that we got the little touches, just a couple of meteors every now and then.
Yeah,
you know, the background of these shots. It wasn't just okay. We've all timed this out perfectly, and inclusive the native Dannies. We're just here right at the perfect moment, and there it is. You know, it was very much like an event that occurred over several hours, and it felt very authentic.
It felt so real. That felt like a real event. Yeah, because of that too, and just hearing the sound that these meteors were making as well, and how they were coming in. Oh man, yeah, it did. It felt like we were there, sitting and waiting and watching for that to happen. So. And funny, you know, we reviewed an episode last week, Rings of Power, titled The Eye.
I know,
As soon as I saw this episode...
Totally different.
Yeah, totally different. So as soon as I saw this episode upload and it said The Eye, I was like, oh, what are the chances? We're gonna rate two different shows, and they're both titled The Eye. But I agree with you, Matt. I very much like this episode, and I try to put my finger on it, like what is so different about the show that I'm very much enjoying, and I think that it's just the performances, everything coming together as well. Once again, I feel like this would be better served as one full, longer episode, and that's really my only criticism of this, is I would have liked to seen this along with the last two episodes as one complete episode. What do you think, Matt?
I don't know. I am actually liking that every week I've got something like this to enjoy. It's been the thing that I've looked forward to right up there with Rings of Power, and I say that about Andor to, also mention that Andor's not even midway through. With Rings of Power, She-Hulk, everything else that we're reviewing, we're coming to the end. We're coming to the finales. Everything's getting really exciting.
Yeah.
But Andor is getting exciting. We're just, at the middle, sort of semi-middle-ish of this season.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to see what happens next. They are just building,
where are they going to go? Yeah, it's like I can't even guess and it's amazing too because the stakes are pretty high. All these characters that we're getting to know, except for like the main ones with Diego Luna's character Vandor and Mon Mothma, like those characters are going to make it out. But all the rest, and it feels like there's real stakes, especially with this rebel group that we were just introduced to, and all these different characters that we got to know that didn't make it through this episode. It was such a shock for me to see all these characters.
Didn't the stakes feel real though? Didn't you feel like you didn't know who was going to make it out of the battle? And and every hit wasn't like some sort of flashy death scene. There was just some people that died. I mean, it almost felt very, 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 very small amount of it felt like Saving Private Ryan. Like at any moment, a stray blast from a laser, or from a stray laser from a blaster, is gonna kill somebody. You didn't know what was gonna happen next, and I really liked that feeling of just being on the edge of my seat, worried about these characters.
Yeah, and I was worried about all of them, and I feel like Karis Nimmick was one of my favorite characters, and that's the young rebel that has the manifesto and everything. And when he got crushed by all those credits, oh my god, I felt that. I was like, I instantly knew.
Such a out of left field type thing too. I thought,
way out of
he's
left field.
Paralyzed or something, and then
and I thought that was going to be it too, right? It's like
and then he dies on the operating table.
Real
hats
situation.
Off. Right? Yeah, it definitely felt real, even though the doctor had 4 arms there. It somehow felt real. But hats off to Alex Lothar for portraying Karis Nimmick in such detailed perfection. They start the episode off with a conversation between him and Diego Luna as Andor, and it just sort of perfectly set us up for the ultimate tragedy that was going to occur later in the episode. But I don't think in like a glaring, in-your-face sort of way. Sometimes we get these shows where there are characters that are going to die, and we haven't been given enough character moments with them throughout, the previous episodes or something, and so they'll just dump a bunch of that right in the beginning of an episode that they're going to die, and you just know, oh yeah, that character is probably going to get it. But Alex has had great scenes throughout the show, and I really did not anticipate that this was going to be his last episode.
I didn't either, but he does play a crucial role, I believe, in Andor's storyline in affecting him in a way. So I think we'll see that moving on forward. He does eventually accept the manifesto, book that Alex Lothar, Karis Nimmick is the character's name, wrote, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects Andor moving on forward. But that original first scene was amazing, getting to see those two perspectives on it. It's like this bright-eyed kid that really wants to make a difference and doesn't want to just settle for the Empire and everything else. And this other character that is in it for the money. And it's funny how that turns around too by the end of this episode. Yeah. So we gotta talk about. I didn't see that at all. Especially there is no indication for that. This guy seems to be all in on that. And if you guys don't know who we're talking about here, it's what's his name?
Go for it, buddy. Well, his character's name is Arvel Skeen, but
that's it.
Skeen!
So Evan Moss Bachrock, is that how you say it?
I'm with you. Yep, that sounds good.
Arvel Skeen. But in the last episode we saw that he drew a knife on Andor and he was not trusting of him and didn't think he was there for the right cause, and then he eventually tells him that he was hired for the money. and whatnot. And in this episode, he's going throughout, and they're doing the heist and everything, and they get to the spaceship, and we're sitting in there, and Karras is crushed by all the credits, and he's sitting there like, hey, we got to take him to the doctor. And he's like, we are here because of this kid and everything. And there was so much heart in that. And then we get into the squeaky, squeaky, squeak.
Got a message.
That was a great message right there. I love that.
Perfect as we're talking about this tragic character death.
I know. And then, while Karras Nemec is on the operating table, you have these two characters of Andor and Skeen, right? Skeen. Just damn names. You see them talking outside of there, and all of a sudden, Skeen's like, we could split this money up and take it our own way. And, man, what did you think of that scene?
The reason that I'm yelling is because even outside of that scene, whenever, what's her name? Vel
Sartha. Faye Marze. Please.
Yep. When Andor comes in and holds her at gunpoint, saying he's going to take off, she yells for Skeen, right? Mm-hmm. Because she trusts him so much.
Yeah.
And it just shows how far he was embedded in the culture of this group with ulterior motives the entire time. And so I felt like that scene, while it felt really out of left field, and I didn't expect it at all, I thought, you know what? I mean, this guy, he's got this really sort of emaciated look. He's been invested with this group, and he's just kind of sick and tired of it. And I think his initial aggression towards Andor in the previous episodes was meant as him being unaware of a new threat. He had planned to take off, maybe kill everybody, and leave the group hanging, I guess, or dead. At the end of this heist, but in comes this wild card person he doesn't know anything about. So he needs to size him up really quickly and figure out what he has to do about this person with the plans that he had. So I think ultimately he decided he couldn't best Andor, so he just is going to bring him in on it. Figures he's in it for the money just like him, and brings his proposition to him.
Yeah, that's a great point, Matt. Yeah, I didn't even think of it that way, but yeah, that's definitely how it seems to have played out for this character. And so, I definitely didn't see that coming. But again, it's like this rebel faction is so small, and like you don't know who you can trust. And I guess it's given us that sense of like, wow, look at all these obstacles and things that they have to get through in order to make this thing real or to fight against the Empire. It just doesn't just take people deciding, oh, let's be a rebel alliance here. It takes deaths, it takes lives, it takes blood and sweat, and it takes all sorts of action. And this is showing those beginning moments, and I very much enjoy that. As a show, it's really incredible to get to see that, and to see it done so well and so real is just amazing. So all around, great show so far.
Very, very good show, and I honestly can't wait to get the full view of the entire picture, because already just with these few episodes, it's made me rethink of not just Rogue One, but the entire initial trilogy. And we see that Luke and Leia and Han are the heroes of the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
Lando, but this gives us backstory to all those people sitting in the room, looking at the hologram, getting ready to go out and try to destroy the Death Star, or being on the ground on the forest moon of Endor and, battling with the Ewoks. It gives those people and their sacrifices more weight. It gives that story just a little bit more body, and I really love that it's doing that. I just have not found that to be the case with any of the rest of these Star Wars shows. And granted, I'm a huge fan of The Mandalorian, still like that show, probably the best overall.
Me too.
But it tells a totally different type of story, and it's really expanding. It's expanding upon the original trilogy in a way that I really, really appreciate.
We should definitely call it that, though. I want to call it that.
Trilly?
Trilly.
Yeah, the original Trilly.
The O Trilly.
Yeah.
You heard it here first on Fatherly Fandom.
Yep.
New thing
called
for
the O Trilly.
The O Trilly is what's still my favorite is the O Trilly.
Exactly, mine too. But this, I just think, like the book, from a certain point of view, gives us just more history and more depth to these background characters, and I'm really digging that, man.
Good comparison too, with from a certain point of view. They actually have one on A New Hope characters as well as in The Empire Strikes Back. Both awesome reads, awesome audiobooks too.
Check them out if you have not, folks. It's
for sure. So there's a lot
more
of that. Or
listen to them on Audible.
Absolutely.
Can't speak highly enough of that experience.
Right? Audible's not paying us here, but we absolutely love Audible here. So
yeah.
So, but Audible, if you do want to help us out, go for it.
We'd always appreciate it.
Yeah, because we love using Audible. I use it all the time. But yes, this show is a completely different beast than any other Star Wars shows. And I was trying to put my thumb on exactly what was so different about this show, and it is the realism. We're looking at the ground level people as well, and it does flesh out a lot of those other stories. Like you said, with Rogue One, they said from the get-go this would change our perception of Rogue One. But you're absolutely right, Matt. It does change your perception of all those background characters in Star Wars. The whole thing, because these characters have to go through such trials and tribulations to get things done. And so this idea of these people coming in and actually succeeding at this, at that point in time with Luke and Leia and Han, it almost seems like a lost effort at that time. And you can see that it's a little bit more grave in their minds than it is in these other characters, right? So
perfectly stated. Yeah, exactly. It just gives it all so much more weight.
So much more weight and stakes. So that's why I absolutely love where Andor is going. I kind of feel too, and I want to do a little speculation here as well. We didn't see Cyril Karn in this. Kyle, the guy who plays the actor's name is Kyle Solar. He was from the Pre-War Authority and everything, got laid off and whatnot. We saw him with his mother last episode. We didn't see him this episode, so I don't know where he's going. But thinking about that character, and I'm trying to think of where they're heading with Andor.
To his uncle's house.
Yeah, so who is this uncle? I wonder if he's going to be with the Empire or something. I really do think that this character of Cyril Karn is going to play a major role in trying to hunt down Andor next, because he did bring up that hologram and everything of Andor when he was at his mom's house, so he's still very much focused on that. I mean, this guy basically destroyed his career and his life, so he's definitely got revenge on the mind. I at first I thought, well, maybe he'll be an ally or something like that, but I think that the way the show is going, it's probably setting him up as an antagonist. What do you think about that, Matt?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think adding a revenge plot to this whole thing could be kind of interesting. I hope it doesn't muddy the waters, because I really like the focus on the fleshing out of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, me too.
But it does add a little bit of intrigue here, and so far they've made his character's narrative also pretty unpredictable. I didn't think we'd be sitting with this guy and his mom having some kind of weird space soup or space cereal.
For the first time, which we remarked on the last episode. If you haven't seen it,
Galaxy Pops or whatever.
Yeah, maybe we'll see popsicles in the next time we visit him.
Yeah, there we go.
Space popsicles. We got cereal. Might as well get some popsicles up in this place.
We've had coffee. Cereal. We need a popsicle in there. Come on, Gilroy's.
I know, right? It's like Tony Gilroy's. You know what I want to do? I want to get as many food items from Earth into the show as possible.
Yep.
How can we get cereal into Star
snacks
Wars?
Can we add? Yeah.
Right? This was the whole reason why he decided to be the showrunner. Yeah, that's right. Chewy Chow. Oh boy.
Exactly.
So there you go, guys.
But if you were going to put, if I was going to put my finger on the difference between this show and all the rest of them, it's the Gilroys. The writing is just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Even with this episode where we've got this major action set piece about to happen, they still give us these beats with the commander and his family.
And his family and how he treats them pretty poorly. Bad father alert here. Not a good dad.
Right, yeah. So, and each one of those characters was very nicely played for the little screen time that they have, but it makes it it gives that much more weight whenever they're taken hostage. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to actually see them hurt.
You don't.
You
I
know?
definitely didn't. And, like, they were willing to go there, too. The rebels were willing to go there. So they walk in that gray line, that gray area.
Yeah.
So they're not completely good as well. And that guy was Commandant J-Hold Bajes,
There
played
you
by
go.
Stanley Townsend. But
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be a little criticism I have of the episode. I kind of wish they would have introduced this character a little bit earlier, maybe in the last episode or something.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because he kind of came out of nowhere for me. I was like, oh, well, okay, who is this guy? What's he about? And why haven't we seen him before? And I love the contrast that he was talking about the Aldanis and how easily they were manipulated. When you just gave them some choices, they could only focus on one. And in the end of the episode, that's kind of what happens to his character. He has a choice of helping the rebels out and getting them this cash flow of credits, or seeing his family hurt or harmed. So
Yeah.
he was manipulated in the same way that he was working on the Aldanis and everything. So I found that pretty interesting in this
Yeah.
episode.
Well, and just a little aside too, did you find it interesting that finally we now have a Star Wars action scene where the Imperials hit something? You know,
They do. These aren't stormtroopers, so maybe that has to do with it. Maybe the helmet itself is designed to make them not see very well.
It's a
Luke remarks
stupid
about this in
idea.
A New Hope too.
Right, exactly. Like, nobody can see out of that thing, let alone
I
hit
can't see a
something
thing
with
in
a
this
blaster.
thing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So the moral of the story is the stormtroopers shouldn't have worn helmets and everything, because they would have done a lot more damage, like the folks on this planet of Aldani. So
Yeah, or make the entire front of
Yeah.
the face open. You
and
know,
that was
something.
another question I had too. I didn't understand why we didn't see any stormtroopers, why they weren't on the ground as well. We didn't have any of those uniformed Imperials out there. I don't understand why that didn't happen.
I don't know. It's a good point. Maybe this just isn't that important of a
Yeah. And the other
colony
thing,
or something.
and the other thing too, I mean, these are little nitpicks, and I love the episode, but the Aldanis, I was thinking that they would have been like an alien race or something like that, but they ended up being humanoid creatures as well. So we don't get to see a whole lot of species of aliens in the last 3 episodes. Not saying that we won't see more in the future, but that was just a little bit of criticism that I had when it came to that. We
Yeah.
saw the Doctor at the end of this, but really it was a bunch of humans dealing with human situations on there. So.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
for me
I
too.
could do with some more aliens.
Me too. I mean, this is Star Wars, so we need to get some really, really cool looking aliens in there. But the other thing I really enjoyed, and I just put this together, Matt, like the place that they filmed at in Scotland, it was really cool. That's a real dam. That Imperial base was
Yeah,
a dam,
I figured.
which is
Right.
awesome. But at the same time, the location that they're at, it might look familiar to you and me because we've seen it before. It was in Game of Thrones in the first season as Winterfell. That is, they filmed up in Scotland just like this location. I think it's the same exact location, in fact. So that I was
Yeah.
like, wow, where have I seen this before? Because I've seen this type of place in something, and I finally figured it out, and that's where it was. So once again, we're
There
getting
you
these
go.
fantasy connections of actors and locations. I mean, we live on planet Earth, so we gotta use what we gotta use. So pretty cool
Well,
stuff.
But it just note to filmmakers everywhere: if you want to film in a beautiful green place, go to Scotland. Ireland's pretty cool too, but
Yeah.
Scotland for sure.
Scotland
Very
also produced Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself. So there you go.
green. Yeah, there you go.
A lot of good stuff in Scotland. There you go. All right, so let's talk about our ratings for this episode. How about? So let's get into that. What did Matt Parham rate this episode of Andor?
Yeah, rewatchability was totally there for me. The performance is on point. The writing is just so good.
Stellar.
I love it. I just love this show. And like you said, there's a couple of things in there that maybe could have gone a different way. But I feel like it's almost like my own creative differences, which it's
True.
It's not my show. And I'm not paid to do any of this. So they just went a couple of different directions than like I would have. But they have way more experience at it. So ultimately, I can't fault them for that at all. So for me, this was a 10 out of 10 episode.
Nice. Love it. Love it. I also really very much enjoyed this episode too. And, you know, even though there's so much seriousness to this, so much earnestness to these episodes and everything, we still get a little bit of joy, especially at the end of this episode, you know, when Mon Mothma's giving her speech at the end.
Yes.
And Stellan Skarsgård, when he finds out about Aldhani, and he goes in the back room and has this little moment. I mean, you just feel so much joy just in that little snippet.
Right.
The other thing I really enjoyed about that scene is it kind of sets you up for... I love that ringer. I love that ringer, guys. You guys, are you hearing that too on our thing? So I love it. But the other thing it kind of sets up too, and it does. I mean, this is what's so great about this show is it sets up so much and tells you so much with so little. And when Mon Mothma's in there giving her speech about whatever legislation she was talking about, you get a sporadic sense of the Senate, and there's lots of empty pods out there, and there's very few people, and it seems very empty. And this is kind of the state of the Senate.
Doesn't matter anymore. Right?
Yeah, exactly, because the Emperor's ruling everything. He's in control, and like all these systems really are either giving up or don't care. And you see Mon Mothma up there trying her best to do what she can within the new galactic empire. It was an incredible scene. It was very short, but I absolutely appreciated that. I absolutely appreciated the end of this episode. I appreciated that there were actual stakes with this, so that you didn't know who was going to make it out, like we were talking about. Just all around great performances. The Eye was a beautiful scene, just seeing all of that, and then you know, navigate through that too, and you know, his navigational device played a big role in helping him out in that, and that was really cleverly done. So I very much enjoyed all this episode. I'm going to also give this 10 out of 10 for Chris. So
woo!
So we got a 10 out of 10 for both of us here at Fatherly Fandom. And do we have anything else to talk about with Andor before we hyperdrive on out of here?
No, but this is going to be an exciting week, folks. Stick with us for a lot of finale reviews coming up. It's going to be a pretty cool week, so stay tuned for more.
Great week. And so, guys, from our families to yours,
have a good one.
May the Force be with you.